Welcome back. This is Salam Media, a special broadcast that we're going to be giving to you because 9 years on from the mass displacement and persecution of the Rohingya in Myanmar, the trauma has not gone away, and neither have calls for justice for those that were affected by what happened in 2017. There were hundreds of thousands who were forced to flee to Bangladesh just after a brutal military crackdown. In 2017 took place, and there were all sorts of allegations that stemmed from genocide and crimes against humanity, and justice for those that were affected is continuing to be persuaded internationally till today. So on Salam Media today, in commemoration and in honor of the lives that were lost and those that continue to suffer in Myanmar, we're going to hear from various voices that are reflecting on the Rohingya crisis, and also they're going to be sharing some words of solidarity to the lives that have been lost and the families that have been displaced, and the continued demand for accountability and justice. Take a listen.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shabna Mayat and I represent Protect the Rohingya, a South African-based awareness organization that was established in 2012. Today marks the 9th anniversary of the Rohingya Genocide. So I want you for a moment to imagine with me that it is a calm morning in a rural village in Myanmar's Arakan state. The morning sounds stream into your dwelling on the outskirts of a village. The area is green, there are many streams and rivers, and your family is out in the fields and you are busy with chores. Suddenly, you hear noise. There are speakers, and the military has surrounded the village. There are gunshots and screams, there's running, and the sounds of fire slowly gathering steam. You go into your neighbor's house and you see that the soldiers are getting closer. They are throwing babies into burning houses. You take a child in your arms, you're forced to leave one behind, and you run. And you keep running. Days become nights, and you pass thousands like you. You eat leaves and drink muddy water to stay alive. You sleep under the stars and you keep running. You see the injured, you see people carrying their elderly parents, and you smell fire. And always there's the sound of gunshots, and you keep running, and you run until you meet thousands like you trying to cross the border into Bangladesh, hoping for safety and hoping that the memories would drown out the horrors. Today, on the commemoration of the genocide, I want to share these voice notes with you from activists across the Rohingya diaspora, as well as those who are currently still living in the Cox's Bazar refugee camps, where over 1 million Rohingya have been forced to make their homes since the genocide.
Today we mark the 9th Rohingya Genocide Remembrance Day. We are speaking to honor the thousands of lives lost and to remember the mass atrocity that took place in 2017. We say never again, yet a painful truth is that the Rohingya genocide is not history, it is not a closed chapter. The genocide is still ongoing today. While the phases of our oppression may have shifted, our reality has not. In Arakan, the perpetrators have changed. Today, the Arakan army is actively persecuting, attacking, and driving our people from our homeland. Every single Rohingya holds a deep desire to return to our homeland with safety, dignity, and full citizenship right. But instead of returning, our people are being forced to run for their life once again. Since the Arakan army took control of the region, at least 200,000 newly displaced Rohingya have been forced to flee to Bangladesh seeking refuge. Left with no safety and no hope, many of our brothers and sisters and children are risking everything on the open sea. Desperate for survival, they embark on risky boat journey toward Malaysia and other neighboring countries. Tragically, hundreds have drowned in the sea. their life lost in search of basic human safety. For those who survive and reach the refugee camp, safety remains an illusion. We are facing a catastrophic humanitarian breakdown. The World Food Program has repeatedly been forced to cut food ration allowance. How can human beings survive on less than basic starvation ration? Families are going hungry every single day, compounding this misery. The physical environment itself has become deadly. Monsoon rain brings severe landslides, crashing fragile shelter and taking innocent life inside the camp years after year. Hunger, national disaster, and insecurity are suffocating our community in exile. 9 years of memory must not become 9 years of inaction. We ask the international community to not look away. We need immediate humanitarian aid restoration, real protection for civilians inside Arkan, and direct pressure on all armed actors, including Arkan Army, to end the persecution. We do not want to live in camp forever. We want peace, we want justice, and above all, we want to go home to Arkan as equal citizen.
Commemoration is not about reopening old wounds. It is about refusing to let the truth be erased. It is about honoring those who were killed, those who disappeared, the women who survived unimaginable violence, the families who lost everything, and the millions who continues to live with the consequences of genocide, further displacement, and further statelessness. For the Rohingya, remembrance is not only about the past, it is about protecting the future because the genocide did not end in 2017. Every day, it still continues, and another generation pays the price. As a child psychiatrist, I have learned that children are shaped not only by their genes, but by the environments in which they grow. When childhood is filled with fear, displacement, hunger, violence, and uncertainty, the brain adapts for survival instead of healthy development. Scientific research shows that prolonged toxic stress can affect emotional regulation, learning, memory, relationships, and a child's ability to trust and to hope. That is why we must stop asking only how many Rohingyas are living in refugee camps. Rather, we must ask what kind of future we are creating for the children growing up there. What happens to a child who has never known a home, who has never experienced citizenship, who grows up behind barbed wire, watching other children dream about their future while their own future remains uncertain? Children are not born with hatred. They are not born without hope. They are shaped by the opportunities or the abandonment that the world gives them. If we continue to fail these children, we should not be surprised by the consequences, not only for the Rohingya, but for Myanmar, for the region, and for our shared humanity. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad Jubair. I am from the Rohingya Youth Development Association RYDA. I am a Rohingya refugee from Myanmar, currently live in Bangladesh refugee camp. For us, commemorating the genocide anniversary is not simply about remembering the past. It is about the honoring the life of those we lost, remembering the survivor and reminding the world that the suffering of the Rohingya people continue. The genocide against the Rohingya forced hundreds of thousands of people to flee Myanmar. Many families lost their loved one and home, communities, and everything they had. Each year, when we commemorate this anniversary, we remember the victim and survivor, but we also remind the world that justice and accountability have yet to be achieved. This day is also about preserving our history, identity, culture, and voice. We want the world to listen to Rohingya survivors and understand that we are not simply refugees in need of humanitarian assistance. We are a people with a homeland, a history, a culture, and a future. Moving forward, the Rohingya people want justice, accountability, and full recognition of genocide committed against us. We want our citizenship and fundamental right to be restored in Myanmar. We want to return to our homeland voluntarily, safely, with dignity, and with full of right and security. We also want meaningful access to education opportunity for Rohingya youth, protection for women and children, and the freedom to live without fear, discrimination, or persecution. Most importantly, Rohingya people must have a meaningful voice in decisions concerning our future. Our future cannot and must not be decided without us. On this genocide anniversary, we remember those we lost, stand in solidarity with survivors, and continue to call for justice, dignity, accountability, and a safe and meaningful future for the Rohingya people.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you for having me with all of you. My name is Ali Jinnah Hussain. I am a co-founder of Rohingya Youth Association and speaking as a Rohingya youth. Every year on 25 August, we commemorate the Rohingya Genocide Remembrance Day. For us, this is not simply a date on the calendar. It is a day to remember the lives that lost, the family that are separated, and the suffering of survivors who were forced to flee their Rohingya homeland. But remembrance is not only about raising our voice, and we also want to the world to remember that the Rohingya people are still waiting for justice, still waiting for dignity and a safe return. Uh, we also want accountability for the crimes that were committed against our Rohingya people. Justice is essential for healing and for preventing such a genocide that's happening from the happening of again. As a Rohingya youth, we want to be part of shaping our own future. We want education, opportunities, and freedom, and also a meaningful voice in decision affecting that can affect in our community. On this ninth anniversary of Rohingya Genocide Remembrance Days, we remember the victims, stand with the survivors, and continue to hope for a future where the Rohingya can live freely and equally in our homeland. Thank you for standing with us and for keeping the Rohingya story alive. Thank you very much for having me with all of you and for giving me this opportunity.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much for having me. I'd like to introduce myself. I am Roa Dumunov and the founder of Youth Action for Myanmar. We established our organization in 2018, and also we work on many areas, including in Rakhine State in Burma, as well as in the refugee camp. We have been doing a lot of work on the women empowerment and education development, as well on research. And on this Genocide Remembrance Day, today we commemorate every year as a our Genocide Remembrance Day. in every year on 5th August. The day is changed everything, including the Burmese military target target as racism and to drive out the Rohingya community, to destroy us, to erase our identity as Rohingya. Not only they do it, but also they kill thousands of women, children, including baby. And we saw, as an eyewitness, I saw well across in the river. They attack our sister and mother and survive. So, and especially on this day, as we observe on 5th August, marking the genocide attack carried out by the Myanmar military against our community on 5th August 2017. On this day, we must those who have lost and reaffirms our commitments to continue fighting for our right and our homeland.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. My name is Koti Maung. I'm a Rohingya refugee living in Canada with a strong connection to South Africa. I lived in South Africa in 2010, volunteered in Joburg in the social housing sector. I volunteered with an institution called Madula Moho, and I also volunteered with another one called Metro Evangelical Services. I frequented very much Roshni, and Cape Town, of course, Durban, Hammaskral in Pretoria, I remember. And I'm fascinated always with the strength and the color of the colorfulness of my brothers and sisters in South Africa. Still fascinating every time I connect with my South African colleagues and comrades here in Canada. I also have another connection, and that's through Sister Shabnam Mayat, an incredible colleague and a leader in action who is not only active on the Rohingya cause but also on the Palestine cause. I was on the Global Samud Flotilla, the last flotilla that sailed to Gaza, alhamdulillah. So, Sister Shabnam invited me to share a few words in the anniversary of the 9th anniversary of the Rohingya genocide that took place in 2017 on August 25th. That's when the massacre began. I just want to ask you all to not forget the Rohingya. South Africa has been a champion for human rights internationally, of course, with your own history of apartheid and your own struggles. And then you have now taken this forward in the next step in the international stage, advocating for the liberation of the Palestinians, just like Mandela did. I want to request you all to bring some of that leadership and South African spirit, inshallah, to the refugee camps, to my people in Bangladesh and in Burma. I've seen some South African comrades in the Rohingya cause in Bangladesh. There are South African NGOs that are out there, South African advisors and humanitarian workers. I would just want to iterate that giving out humanitarian supplies and handouts is not enough. And you know this by experience. South Africa is strong because of what you do yourselves. You build yourselves, you're a proud nation, and you stand on your feet, and you lead the rest of not only Africa, but the rest of the world. So the Rohingya and every persecuted people need to stand on their feet. They need to develop their own leaders. They need to have that capacity, and that capacity building is essential. We need to have our own Mandela, our own Steve Biko, our own Sisulu, our own Desmond Tutu. We need people like that. We don't need people. Our leadership, unfortunately, is very busy going out there and taking pictures and going out to UN and shaking hands with Americans and Canadians and British and Australians and whatnot, thinking that is what's going to give them liberation. No, South Africans know liberation, what liberation is, and it has to be fought on the streets, on the grounds, by developing themselves and by fighting for freedom by themselves. Having that bona fide leadership is what we need, and we need to build that capacity. Inshallah, I hope and pray that through South African comrades and civil society organizations that can build that solidarity in the Rohingya refugee camps and elsewhere, we can develop that capacity amongst ourselves. Jazakallah. Thank you. Free Rohingya and free South Africa.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. To those who are tuning in and listening this message in solidarity with us, with the Rohingya community today, as we mark the Genocide Remembrance Commemoration on the 25th August 2026. Today, as we mark 10 years since the beginning of the genocidal campaign against the Rohingya, we remember those who were killed, those who disappeared, and the women and girls who endured horrific violence, and the families who were forced to flee our ancestral homeland. 10 years may have passed, but for the Rohingya, the pain is not in the past. I speak today as a Rohingya, as a former refugee, and a human rights defender. For me, this is not simply a historical anniversary. It is the continuing story of our people, families separated across border, and Rohingya survivors waiting for justice, and generations of children growing up without citizenship, freedom, or a secure future. Hundreds of thousands of Rohingya were driven from Myanmar through massive killing, atrocities, sexual violence, and widespread destruction in August 2017. Today, more than 1 million Rohingya remain in Bangladesh, while others are displaced inside Myanmar or scattered across many countries, including Asia and Pacific region. Despite the passing of a decade, the conditions that enable the genocide have not been dismantled. Rohingya people are still denied recognition as an ethnic community of Myanmar, deprived full citizenship and fundamental rights. Many continue to face restrictions on their movement, education, healthcare, and livelihoods. In the refugee camps, humanitarian assistance is declining, while insecurity, poverty, trafficking, and hopelessness are increasing. Young people are asking what future available to them, what is their hope for them. Commemoration without meaningful action is not enough. We call upon the international community to pursue justice and accountability for the crimes committed against the Rohingya. Those responsible must be held accountable, and they must not be allowed to act with impunity. Governments and humanitarian agencies must continue supporting Rohingya refugees, especially women, children, young people, and human rights defenders. Any return to Myanmar must be voluntary, safe, dignified, and sustainable. No Rohingya should be pressured to return while the conditions that caused their displacement remain unchanged. Most importantly, Rohingya people must be included in every decision concerning our lives and our future. Nothing about us should be decided without us. That includes aid reduction discussion, diplomatic, political discussion, and dialogue. And the Rohingya are not merely victims and statistic or a humanitarian burden. We are people with dignity, history, identity, knowledge, and ability to lead. 10 years is too long to wait for justice. It is too long for children to grow up without hope, but it is not too late for the world to act. Please remember us. Please remember the Rohingya, not only today, but until justice, citizenship, freedom, and lasting peace become a reality for our people. Thank you again for those who are tuning in and listening to this voice clip in solidarity. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Dear listeners, on the event of the 9th commemoration of the Rohingya genocide, we at Protect the Rohingya are launching a 7-part popular education series developed for Rohingya learners entitled Ashes and Seeds. It begins from a simple principle. People who have been displaced, denied citizenship, and excluded from formal education are not empty vessels waiting for experts to give them knowledge. They carry histories, memories, skills, and ways of understanding the world. This series draws on the tradition of popular pedagogy associated with Paulo Freire and liberation movements across the global south. Education is treated not simply as the transfer of facts, but as a collective practice of naming the forces that shape people's lives. Each episode moves between history and the lived experience, inviting the learners to ask questions, to tell their own stories, and to locate the Rohingya struggle within global movements for land, dignity, belonging, and freedom. Please look at our socials to get more details, and please do share the links with others. I want to take this opportunity to thank Salam Media for hosting this special Rohingya Genocide Commemoration broadcast, and to also thank all the Rohingya activists who shared their voices with us this morning. Listeners, today marks 9 years since acts of genocide forced 1 million Rohingya to flee their homes. Experts have named their lived experience of the Rohingya a slow burning genocide. Sadly, their situation continues to deteriorate as the massacres in their homeland pile up and their rights in the states where they seek refuge are virtually non existent. Those who survived must balance horrific memories with a desperate present. At the very least, we must remember and we must bear witness, not only for the Rohingya, but for our own humanity. I hope that today you will share the story of the Rohingya with just one other person you meet. Let us take this opportunity to share their plight, and there are many organizations that we can support that have projects in the Rohingya refugee camps and in the diaspora. Do your research and support these organizations. They need your support. From myself, Shabna Mayat, and Protect the Rohingya, Assalamu alaikum.